our buildings ethically sourced? Are they sustainably designed? Are they free of forced and child labor? At Grace Farms, we are reimagining architecture as a porous, hopeful, living platform to create more grace and peace in the world. Architecture can break down barriers between people and sectors, can put you in proximity to issues, and can create new outcomes. We are reimagining architecture as a driver of humanitarian outcomes, to design for freedom, to design a more humane built environment. Every day, building materials that are made with forced labor make their way into our buildings, landscapes, and homes. An estimated 28 million people are held in forced labor around the world, working with little or no pay in inhumane working conditions. Design for Freedom, launched by Grace Farms Foundation CEO and founder Sharon Prince, is working to change that by creating a radical paradigm shift to remove forced labor from the building material supply chain. Just think about it. Over the past several decades, producers and consumers first focused on the ethics and sustainability of food, then clothing. The next sector that demands our attention is shelter. Through these pilot projects, Design for Freedom is spotlighting this humanitarian crisis, incorporating ethical and sustainable building practices and enlarging capacity among design and construction teams, owners, manufacturers, and the public itself. Envisioned by Chelsea Thatcher, Grace Farms Foundation's creative director, these pilot projects are committed to our Design for Freedom principles: supply chain transparency and ethical material procurement. We work together with our partners to put this into action and address sustainable development goals so that ESG investors will also start to prioritize these principles. The construction industry is, after all, the largest industrialized sector at the greatest risk of modern slavery. Conscious investment coupled with social responsibility will surely bring about market transformation. The first international pilot project is Black Chapel by artist Theaster Gates. This striking structure is the Serpentine Pavilion's prestigious annual commission. We were able to trace plywood and timber, steelwork, concrete, and the weatherproofing material as far upstream in the supply chain as possible, and in some cases to the point of raw material extraction. This effort shows it's actually possible to build with materials that do not use forced labor. A new arts and culture center is the first pilot project in Asia. When completed, the complex will be the largest of its kind in the world. As Sunil Mujal of Serendipity Arts remarked at this year's Design for Freedom Summit, we are not just looking at fair practices of what we do ourselves, but also of our suppliers and how they treat people, how they treat the ecosystem, and how they treat the environment. Shadow of a Face, a monument to Harriet Tubman designed by Nuna Cook John, is another of our pilot projects. The work will be a focal point of the newly renamed Tubman Square. Cook John is a transformative and versatile architect and sculptor working at a human scale and is concerned with how space is used in our everyday lives.
So I think once we realize that people are the center of architecture and it's not about an abstract understanding of materials or space, then when we go back to the selection of the materials and really understand that there were people involved in making these materials. They're not only thinking about the craftsmen and the conditions in which they're working, but how they're sourcing the materials. How are the people who are, getting the rubber from that tree, who are felling the timber to be used in the building, really understand that humanity touches every single step along the way, I think allows us to reimagine how architecture fits into the rest of our lives. So it doesn't only become about the final product as an abstract, beautiful thing that sits on top of a hill, but how it directly affects the lives of people from one end to the next. Before being involved with the Design for Freedom mission, I didn't really understand how almost every single thing within the building materials that we use in any project can really be touched by forced labor and along so many different portions of the supply chain, right?
Grace Farms is also partnering with the New Canaan Library on their new state-of-the-art Knowledge and Learning Center. It was at the behest of Debbie Probst, president of Global Retail at Miller Knoll, that the library became another of our pilot projects. Through key connections and visionaries like her, we are developing allies to encourage ethical sourcing. The library's award-winning design team includes Turner, one of the largest U.S. construction firms, which is working more broadly to incorporate the principles of design for freedom.
Miller Knoll is an organization whose purpose is design for the good of humankind. We have a very rich DNA around doing good. Profit is the consequence of doing good and doing it well. And that is such a rich part of our DNA and our values. We do good through the world of design through many decisions we make on a daily basis. Whether it's thinking about the next innovative material that we're going after to reduce the carbon footprint on our manufacturing process, whether it's thinking about eliminating as much waste in our go-to-market strategies as we can, all of these things add up. And so as it pertains to the values and the mission behind Design for Freedom, it's so congruent with the work that we're already doing. And what is most important about this work that we do collectively is creating awareness. And so to give Grace Farms Foundation and Design for Freedom a platform that has a strong voice in this space already just amplifies our mission at Miller Knoll and creates a huge opportunity to engage a wide audience for Design for Freedom.
The final of our inaugural pilot projects is Alison Schatz's Temporal Shift. The piece is a site-responsive sculpture that mirrors the Earth's orbit, a marker of our time and place in the universe. The reflections and shadows it casts through the course of the day prompt us to consider the moment in which we find ourselves. We trace the stainless steel and concrete used in the piece, 100% of which is ethically sourced.
And we also are leading a new movement called Design for Freedom to create a radical paradigm shift and remove forced labor from the building materials supply chain, creating a more humane built environment. So you can see that we are connecting our investment in architecture as an avenue to create more grace and peace in the world with our commitment to create a more just world. And those come together through that initiative.
In 1 year, 1 million people will have encountered one of these pilot projects. Whether it is at Grace Farms itself or at sites around the world, these works of art and architecture are invitations for people of all ages and backgrounds to join us in this movement. We can no longer accept the slavery discount on that next chair, house, or office building. We can transform the construction industry and compel change. We can elevate human dignity and accelerate this movement. We can design and build a more humane and hopeful future.